So majority of the questions have been asked from the concepts of budget or the components of budget. Okay, so have an idea, visualize it. Okay, when I say, so we are discussing only about union budget. Okay, so be very clear, we are discussing about union budget, central government. I told you budget is government account. Okay, so in a budget there will be a receipt part and an expenditure part. Now just take a 10-second time and imagine that any account, whether it is your personal account also, you will have this, a receipt part, you receiving money, okay, and spending, expenditure is spending. These two only will be there. You may, if there are some people, or in order to have financial discipline, we write down our expenditure so that we can control our expenditure. Okay, we know that. Okay, if you are not aware how much money you are spending per day, once your money get over, you will realize, oh, month end there are 10 more days is there. Okay, so what I'll do. So, but if you carefully plan it, so same thing the government also have to do it. Okay, so every expenditure will be written down, and there are, since it is union government expenditure, okay, or union government budget, there are many items are there, and that's why I told it's in lakh crore. We'll see it. Similarly, this receipt, okay, so one important thing about budget is that it has to be a balanced budget. What do you mean by balanced budget? What do you mean by balance? The receipts and expenditure have to be same, equal, or what will happen? It will become an unbalanced budget. Okay, you take any budget data, you can see that the total receipts and the total expenditure will be always the same. So no, you can see it will be like that. I'll tell you, don't worry, don't jump into it. I know that once I'll show you a data, there are many concepts I have to explain, but first thing to be very clear is that we are having the finance minister will be presenting a balanced budget, so that the receipts and will be equal, expenditure will be equal, so that you keep in mind. Okay, now, so receipts means, okay, think from the union government point of view, what all money the union government receives will be written here in the receipts part. What all money the government spend will be written in this part, expenditure part. Okay, now we are going to classify receipts and expenditure. There are two type. Okay, so there are two account is there. Budget is having two account. Revenue account or revenue budget, as well as capital account or capital budget. Adding these two, this is for your understanding. Okay, so this is revenue receipts, this one capital receipts, this is revenue expenditure, this one is capital expenditure. So here it will be, if you write total here, this one will be total receipts, this one will be total expenditure. Okay, and total receipts and total expenditure will be the same. Now, so regarding union budget, okay, so union budget is classified into revenue budget and capital budget. Add these two, you will get the full budget or the total budget. Okay, now we'll start with the receipts. We are going to start with receipts. Okay, I'm telling you these four components. What are the four components? Revenue receipts, revenue expenditure, capital receipts, capital expenditure. There are many components are there. If you know the components, don't by heart it, understand it. Okay, you can answer any question. There are more than 10 questions only from this figure. 10 questions have been asked from. So you have to be very clear, understand it, hear it now itself with the class itself, and try to solve the questions. Okay. So we'll start with receipts. First we will deal with revenue receipts and then we'll move to capital receipts. Okay. Now regarding the revenue receipts, okay, the constitution, I told you, na, the constitution is talking about, there is a section called financial, center state financial relation. Okay. And also there are certain provisions in the constitution, it's certain articles regarding finances mentioned. Okay. So article 112, in the article 1112 of Indian constitution is talking about budget. But there it is not mentioning the word budget, instead it is using the word annual financial statement. Budget term is not mentioned in the constitution. But in economy we use the word. But instead of, but budget is mentioned through a different term. What is it? Annual financial statement. It's an annual financial statement of the government. Okay. This is mentioning about the central government, this is mentioning about the state government. Okay. So articles, they will not see earlier, before 2010 they used to ask this article number and all these things. Okay. Now it is very rarely they ask, and if they are asking, it's because it's a very important current affair. Otherwise they will not ask the article. Okay. So in the constitution, constitution clearly distinguish the expenditure. I just point to note down. Okay. Constitution is using this word revenue expenditure and other expenditure. What is this other expenditure? It is capital expenditure. Constitution only using the word revenue expenditure and other expenditure. But you have to understand, as an economic student, it is capital expenditure. Similarly, so constitution is not mentioning about receipts word. But Indian budget classifies. So constitution is distinguishing revenue expenditure and other expenditure, that is capital expenditure. Similarly, the budget is classifying in terms of receipts. We have to see receipts and expenditure as revenue receipts and capital receipts. Okay. So these things, just for your understanding, I am again simplifying that budget is having two main component, receipt component, expenditure component, revenue budget, capital budget. These two things. Okay. Now we will see, first we will start with revenue receipts. This is what? This part is revenue receipts. Clear now? So revenue receipts, before knowing what are the components in the revenue receipts? What are the components in the revenue receipts? Okay. Now imagine your father is giving you 10,000 rupees. It can be anyone, your father or if you are having a job, okay, you are getting money. So I'm just saying that your father is giving you 10,000 rupees for your monthly expenditure. Imagine you are a student and your father is giving only 10,000. Fees, everything he has already paid. Okay, so don't worry about that. So 10,000 for your monthly expenditure. Normally, if it is a receipt, okay. So there is in this receipt, the receipt you received from your father, is it creating any liability for you? Your father's money, you need to pay back. If father asks you to pay back, then you will give a good reply to him. What is it? Are you my? Who are you? It is your responsibility to fund me. Anyway, just okay. Okay, so there are cases, receipts in which, okay, sometimes, that's why there are some receipts, it will not create any liability. But if you are borrowing from a bank, you take a personal loan. You are getting 2 lakh rupee as a loan, personal loan. Now it's very easy to get small amount of loan. Things have changed. Small amount, not big amount. 1 lakh rupee loan you will get it. For 2 lakh, 3 lakh, up to 3 lakh you will get easily. It changes. I'm just for your, so you are taking a 2 lakh personal loan. That is also you receive that money. That's your receipt. But that has created a liability for you. It has created a liability. What is the liability? You have to pay interest. You have to pay back the amount, principal amount as well as interest. So there are some receipts which will create liability. There are some receipts which will not create no liability at all. I given 2 examples from your personal experience. Now, another way of you getting receipt is that, for example, if you normally if you have some gold, these are some common thing happen. Okay, sometimes you sell the gold. Gold is an asset, yes or no? Because if you have gold anytime, if you need money, you can either borrow money with gold by using gold loan, or you can sell it and you'll get money. Okay, or if you have land, they are all assets. Okay, so you sell an asset, you will get receipt. Okay, so there is a relationship between, I am using this word, this is a very important economic term, asset and liability. You have an asset, you sell an asset, you will get receipts. You're getting? Okay, so revenue receipts or revenue expenditure or capital receipts or capital expenditure, everything you have to understand. If one component is given, you have to first see that how this, what is happening to your asset or what is happening to your liability. Based on that, we will able to understand whether it is a receipt, a capital thing or revenue account. So we are going to first, I am going to explain regarding, in the case of revenue receipts, it's a receipt now, that is clear, you are receiving. And see, we are talking from the government, now forget about yourself, coming back to government. Okay, if you are receiving money, the source of fund for the government, so the source or the government, okay, if the government is receiving money and the money the government received is not creating any, no liability, it is not creating no receipts, no liability. Similarly, it neither create liability nor reduce asset, no asset reduction. If these two conditions, means the government is having assets, no? Government is also having assets, government is having public sector enterprises, government is having land. Okay, so without selling any asset, without any asset reduction, or without creating, without not having any liability, if the government is getting any receipts, that receipts is what is called as revenue receipts. So we have to see both asset and liability. So in revenue receipts, there is no reduction in the assets of the central government. The central government is not losing any asset. The central government is not creating any new liability. With these two conditions in mind, it is getting some receipt. That receipt is revenue receipts. The most important revenue receipt is tax. The different taxes the central government get. What is that? It goes to the revenue receipts. Think about it. You paying taxes. Is the central government liable to you? No. So central government will not pay you back that tax. Okay, is the central government losing any asset? No. Okay, so we classify the two main components are there: tax revenue or taxes and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue or taxes or non-tax revenue. These two are the, I'll explain what is the non-tax revenue. UPSC can ask this question. See, non-tax revenue comes under where? Under revenue receipts. So taxes also comes under, or tax revenue comes under revenue receipts. You know the definition of revenue receipts. Okay, so your taxation is our module 2. In our next class, we will discuss, most probably Sunday only I'll be taking after your test. Okay, so next Sunday we'll go to module 2. We'll discuss in taxation in detail. But you have to keep in mind, tax revenue or taxes comes under revenue receipts. Okay, so these are the different tax revenue